Also, too, it's like normally dudes don't go to baby showers, but my brother has specifically requested we set this thing up for like everybody. And I'm just like, come on, man. You really, on WrestleMania weekend.
You are listening to Trophy Horse with your hosts, Tricky Mick, Alex, I Yield to No One,
Steve,
and Sid. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Trophy Horses, episode 565, our PAX Spectacular. We got Tricky on the floor playing games, talking to developers. So I'm your host this week, Alex, and with me, I got the man who hopes Tricky Big brings him home a shitload of swag. I Yield to No One.
What's up, everybody?
You think Tricky's gonna bring any swag?
Probably not.
We also have probably the biggest Resident Evil 4 fan that I know. It's Resident Darrell.
What's up? What's up? It's great. It's great.
And the man that doesn't want to be convinced to buy Resident Evil 4, though he's probably going to buy it anyway, Mr. Joe Priestley.
Hey guys, what's up? Again, Tricky not here when I'm on the show. The man is ducking me.
I honestly, I don't even think he invited you. It was Darrell who invited you, correct?
That's right.
Correct.
But, okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty of the news and trophy counts and whatever, I got some pop culture questions for you guys.
Oh boy, here we go.
Did everyone see the Power Rangers Once and Always trailer?
Yes, I did.
It was amazing.
Is everybody else as hyped as I am for it? Because I'm
super hyped.
Hyped.
No yield.
No. Did you see my comment in your post?
I did, but I can't remember exactly what the verbiage was.
I said, I hope Rita wins this time.
Oh, no. I hope the Megazord, Dragonzord, and Titanus combine to shoot that big old laser beam and take Rita out once and for all. Darrell, sir, your thoughts?
I'm stoked, man. I think I'm very excited. I hate that JDF is no longer with us, and I really hate that, that it kind of comes with that on the back of it, but I am so stoked for it.
Well, let me just throw a few things at you. One, filming was done before he passed.
Yep,
right.
He wasn't invited.
But the other thing was, apparently he turned down being part of it, so who knows, they're obviously being very secretive about the Green Ranger, because that's the first question everyone always asks, who's the Green Ranger? So yeah, they're obviously being very secretive about that, so we'll just have to wait until April 19th when it comes to Netflix, which, by the way, it's a 55-minute special, so I think 2 episodes, so a little disappointed it's not more than that, but, as long as they give me all the Zords again, I'll be happy. But Joe, your opinion, sir?
I mean, I'll take what I can get as far as, the length. I mean, you could have made this like a mini-series, could have been 5 episodes, but I understand what they're doing here, and, I don't know if they said he backed out of it or he didn't want to do it, but I also think there was issues with him doing his own Power Ranger movie thing that they were having issues with him. So that's why he didn't do it. Because I think it conflicted with when he was filming that. Because remember, he just finished filming that movie right before
Legend of the White Dragon.
Yeah, Legend of the White Dragon, which is actually going to theaters, Zach told me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty dope. So I'm excited. I'm a huge Power Rangers fan, especially OG Power Rangers from that first generation. Yeah, I'm excited. They made Trini's death canon, so spoiler.
Yeah, that was a nice touch there. I really appreciate that. And as You Me at 6 would say with one of their new songs, God bless the 90s kid. All right, and Joe, you being a huge TMNT fan like myself, what are your feelings on The Last Ronin and the video game adaptation coming out?
I mean, I was in the middle of a conference at work on Friday when I got the news on my phone, and I was like, oh man, this is pretty sweet. Not happy that's going to take forever for it to get here, but, that's the modern day dev cycle, 2 to 3 years to get something. It is what it is. I'm super jacked, though. Last Ronin's definitely a great comic book. Everyone should read it. It's great. And they're also working on a sequel, so it's a comic book, so.
And Darrell, I don't know if you enjoy TMNT like we do, but I mean, you're the same generation as us, so I'm assuming that you grew up watching it.
Oh, absolutely. Huge fan. Really enjoyed the Last Ronin comic book. I didn't finish the entire series. I actually only got the first couple of issues. That was kind of coming out right when I was slowing down from collecting physical comics. And so I've got a hodgepodge of Last Ronin, some physical, some digital, because that first run, man, that was like, I think like my issue was like on the 7th printing or something like that. Like, it was ridiculous how much, like, how well that was selling. And so, yeah, I haven't read the entirety of it all, but what I have read was really great. And I'm really stoked about the rumor that we have heard that the game is actually going to be cool.
Yeah. You know, I thought I had another pop culture question, but I thought there was a trinity there, but I guess that I had forgotten it. I'll probably remember it after we get done recording, but, you know, I think it's time for us to jump into our show proper and give everyone our updated trophy counts. Tricky is level 835 with a total trophy count of 25,429. I am a level 470. Oh, and he has a platinum count of 683. Sorry, Tricky, didn't mean to skip you there. I am level 475 with a total trophy count of 8,591 with a platinum count of 142 in 141 games. Yield.
Newly minted, level 491, with a trophy count of 9297 and a platinum count of 166.
Sid is level 831 with a total trophy count of 22,948 and a platinum count of 716, still whooping Tricky's butt in that regard. Darrell, sir?
I am a level 693 with a total trophy count of 17,057 and a platinum count of 382. I have still not gone back to spamming.
Good job, Darrell. We're proud of you.
Yeah, the only thing I've done that's considered spam would be My Name is Mayo 3. Gotta give it up to the GOAT. And I guess I did Death Come True, which I kind of cheesed my way through that one, but it doesn't have a platinum. It was just, just a couple trophies. Yep, but yeah, for the most part, I've kind of given up on spamming. I've played some of the better quality Ratalaika games that I missed out on, during my spam celibacy. And, so the only things I've done that even by Ratalaika took a few hours. So I feel pretty good, feel pretty clean.
And it sounds like you're a new man. It seems like you've kind of cleansed yourself of the spam, and you're not going to get down in the dirt and the mud with Tricky anymore. It seems like
Alex, he's let go of his hate. He's come back to the light side.
That's right. No, I think I'm good. Taking a year off of spam, it was really difficult because, especially with the career change, there's these weird little pockets throughout the day where it's like a spam game would fit perfectly. And even right now, and it's like I have these weird times of the day where it's like, oh, I've got 30 minutes before my next appointment. Can't really go anywhere. Can't really do anything. And you really can't make much real progress in a video game. So, like, even though I work from home, I've tried a few times to have like a game on, but like it'll go into power save mode before I can get back to it. Sometimes I don't get back to it the rest of the day. So, not playing the spam games, it's kind of. I kind of go back and forth. I'm like, well, I probably really should. If ever a time in my life I could be killing spam games because I've got these weird little perfect times for them. But it is what it is. I don't miss having a hyper inflated trophy count. I don't miss looking at my PlayStation profiles and having to scroll down for a little while to find like a real game that I platinumed. So, but who knows? I could change my mind tomorrow. I could go back.
But here's the thing: we all get that little sense of pride, and I'm sure that there's some study that has tied earning a trophy to some kind of like little thing in your brain, some reaction in your brain that it's just some kind of neurological trigger. But when you're spamming like platinums like crazy, and you're getting like 200 platinums in like a month, like doesn't that kind of trigger like lessen? Doesn't it kind of deaden that feeling you get because you've gotten so many? It becomes just like, all right, whatever, here's another one.
Yeah, I liken it to when you stop buying physical games and you buy your games digitally, like it takes some of that net rush, that endorphin rush, that like new games. Oh man, and I'll even go a step farther, like buying my games digitally. It's cool, I have the game and I get to play the game. But there is something about that game in your hand, that physical. I just got it. I put it in my console and whatever. Well, then my brother and I were talking this past weekend, and he found he got into like the Retro Arch on Steam. You can kind of download the Retro Arch program, and you can play your emulators through Steam. And so he just found this big ROM dump of all these really hard to find Sega Saturn games. And he's been collecting Sega Saturn physical games, And he was like, man, I got this, and this. All these games are going to, they're going to cost him $300-400 a piece. He's like, I found a ROM dump for them. So I'm going to play them and stream them through my PC. I'm like, man, doesn't that kind of cheapen the feeling of purchasing the game? He's like, yeah, but there's a difference between paying $300 a piece and then just spending 3 minutes downloading them and you have them. So I kind of liken it to that. It's like there's something to it. There's something of that feeling of accomplishment, that feeling of like I just did this thing when the platinum is earned. So there's definitely something to it.
You know what I do miss about physical games? Getting an instruction booklet or just like a booklet that has pictures and stuff. Because
I at least like the description on the back of a game. I bought several games of this is a cool cover art. What's this game about? Flip it over and read it and be like, you know what? I'm gonna buy that.
I'd get like a booklet for like the old like Turtles games. Like they would have like pictures of the bosses in there. Like Turtles in Time would have pictures of the Turtles villains. And how cool would it be to have like buy Resident Evil 4 the remake, physical copy, and then have a booklet showing pictures of like Del Lago and El Gigante and all these different characters, like just like cool artwork of all of them, and like some of the pictures, like they hide some of that stuff like artwork or concept art inside of a game as part of unlockables. But how cool would it just to have like a little booklet that comes with your physical copy to enhance that experience of buying the game physical? I miss that.
Yep.
And Joe, sir, I didn't forget about you, sir.
It's all good.
No, man. How about you share your trophies with us, sir?
I am a newly minted level 460 with a trophy count of 10,328 with a platinum count of 32.
Most excellent, sir. And well, since let's stay on the Joe train. And sir, what have you been playing this week?
A lot of different things. This week mainly I've been playing Terminator Resistance for the PlayStation 5. This game's really cool. I'm really digging it. It's a first-person shooter, over-the-shoulder first-person shooter, and it's really cool what they've done with this game, and they've really captured the essence of like the James Cameron era Terminator movies. So it plays really, really well, and I'm really digging it. It's got a lot of difficulty to it too, because you can't just like go up to like a Terminator and like kill it. You have to you can do it like different ways. You can steal the plasma weapons after you kill your first one, and then every time you kill one, you can like steal their plasma energy and make more plasma bullets, or just steal their plasma and it turns into bullets. But also there's a lot of like collectibles and stuff in the game. It's really I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time with this. I definitely recommend it if you like Terminator, you like first-person shooters. It's definitely one to play. It's actually on sale right now on PlayStation as well.
How much is it right now?
I think it's $23, and you get both copies.
Sweet. You know what you get both copies for, Joe, for a very low price of $60?
Resident Evil?
That's right, Resident Evil 4 Remake.
Oh man, what a shock. So I've been playing that. I've been playing Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga for the PlayStation 5 as well. I am on episode 8 now, so that's Rise of Skywalker. So that's pretty cool. I'm liking it. Or no, is that Last Jedi? Hold on.
No, Last Jedi's 9.
Yeah,
that's right. Okay, so I was right. Okay,
No. Last Jedi.
No, I was right.
Last Jedi's 8. Rise of Skywalker is 9.
I'm on Last Jedi. I just started Last Jedi. I don't know. I like the Lego game a lot, but it's like it leaves a lot because I feel like it's more mission based than anything. So like you have all these levels that you can go into. Like there's 4 or 5 major levels in each movie, but then there's like a lot of like submissions in each level, and that's where like the chunky and meatiness of the game is. But if you're just trying to beat the game, all you're really doing is like going through the levels, and they could take anywhere from like 3 to 5 to 10 minutes at most. They're not like your 15, 20-minute Lego levels like you're used to in all your other Lego games. So this one's a little bit quicker, honestly. It's got a quicker pace to it. So, but I'm enjoying that. I just beat Wreckfest, so that's done and off my console now. That game...
What'd you think of it?
It is the best racing game I've played in years, like, Yield. The best.
Yes.
I want a sequel to this game, and I don't want what they're giving us. I'm kind of mad that the sequel is going to be like this open-world racing game. It's kind of upsetting. I don't know how you feel about it.
I heard about something, but I hadn't really looked into it, so I didn't know if that was the successor to Wreckfest or not. It is? Okay.
It is.
I'll have to look into it.
So we're not getting like a direct sequel where it's going to be like, just a racing game now. We're getting like this open world, build your own tracks, like infinite amount of tracks kind of game. So, I don't know. I like my cups. I thought the game was very good and difficult. Like, it had a lot of difficulty to it.
Oh, I agree, because I started out, because, like, playing it just normal, I was whooping the field, so I cranked up the realism. And then I couldn't be as aggressive.
No, because
I would lose my front tire.
Yeah, you wreck so
and
fast.
I'm like, crap. So it made me... I had to be strategically aggressive.
No, that makes sense.
Which I liked, but then I also couldn't just slam into somebody when I wanted to, because I'm like, I can't lose my front tire.
No,
So quick, hold on, guys. Quick note here. You guys are not referring to Recreation, right?
No.
Okay, because I was going to say Tricky popped in. Tricky, for those, it is not on the show, but he is in the chat. He just wants to make sure that we're not talking about Recreation, because that's not... He just popped in was saying that's not the sequel.
Yeah, Recreation is the sequel to Wreckfest.
Yeah, it is a sequel to Wreckfest. Yes, it is.
Tricky said it's not.
No, it is. It's what they're making next. It's the same team. They're not making a sequel to Wreckfest. Recreation is Wreckfest 2. They were going to make a Wreckfest 2, and then they went games of service with it. Which is kind of upsetting.
That is kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Tricky says the dev says it's not. So I guess it's not a direct sequel, Tricky, but it's their next game.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, I'm fine with that. Maybe they will make a Wreckfest 2 then. I like that, Tricky. Tricky's like our fact band today.
Yeah, Tricky says it's a standalone game. So.
Yeah, coming fresh off the floor at PAX. He's probably got that PAX boo-boo, too.
He's like our correspondent.
Going live to the PAX floor.
I just hope he didn't get the vid, yo.
I got that PAX diarrhea.
No, he's going to definitely come back with some con flu, something.
I have to say, I went to PAX, and I came back perfectly fine.
That's a really nice place to hold a convention. Like, I really like the PAX, the place where they hold PAX. Like, convention center is really nice. Like, I've gone there for many things. And hopefully next year I'll get there for PAX. I mean, I wanted to go this year, but with trying to, plan a Disney vacation and then trying to save money for WrestleMania for next year in Philly, it's been, it's been tight, so.
Joe's trying to ride that Tron ride.
I don't know. You know what? I kind of have to go on that now. I feel like...
I would ride it. That sounds fun. I loved old school Tron.
I have to report back to the masses on how good the ride is.
Well, also, they're opening... Well, I don't know if it's open yet, but there's also a Guardians of the Galaxy ride, too.
That's open, and I really want to go on that. That's already on my list of things for my travel agent to book me on, because like you have to have like a travel agent book you on rides now. It's that ridiculous there now. It's crazy.
Seriously?
It's crazy because like they're still under the COVID, not like total COVID restrictions, but they only let people go in certain, like if you have Hopper Pass, they try to have people only go for like half the day to each park, and then they try to get people to switch out so they can like keep the lines low and keep everything moving like steadily as you're in the park.
Well, if they want to keep the lines low, they'll be like, hey, only a certain amount of people can come on this day. I mean, it's the idea of the lines at Disney being short is ridiculous. Like even for it's like when we went in 2020, like January 2020, before everything went to hell, the ride for like the Seven Dwarves mine cart was like 3 hours. So
holy cow!
Good. I mean, granted, it was a newer ride, but still, like, good luck keeping those lines short. I mean, unless you're going early in the morning, or you buy fast passes, or But yeah,
did you ride it?
Yeah, we had a fast pass for that. We used a fast pass for that one. I mean, it was a fun ride. It was a great presentation. The presentation was the best part of it. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but yeah, I like the ride. Am I gonna sit there and wait for 3 hours for it? No, but. All right, Joe, we got your plans. You're doing Disney. You're trying to go to WrestleMania next year. But any more games you've been playing?
Oh yeah, the one big one. I mean, I played WWE 2K23, and I played a lot of it.
How is it?
I played every mode. I would say this is a step up from last year, which I was like, I don't know if they could do a step up from last year, because last year was really tight and it fixed a lot of problems, but it's definitely a step up, especially if you're one of those people who likes to just sit in like universe mode and like make your own WWE from like scratch. You can do that now, like, and with like a lot of bells and whistles healed, like you can make like rivalries and then like pick which direction the rivalries go in and have the cutscenes play out the way you want them to play out. It's actually quite astonishing what you can pull off in this game.
I saw my buddy was playing it the other night, and I was going to ask him as well, but I figured I'd get your opinion on it.
And then I played the first match in like the showcase mode, where the twist with this year's showcase mode is you play John Cena's opponents. So everybody that he's lost to, you play as them. Well, everyone they have the rights to. That you lost to.
So John Cena, or it was Rey Mysterio last year. Now John Cena is the cover boy this year, which is probably why they chose to do it that way.
Correct, but it was weird that they did the losses instead of the victories. So I think it's really cool. So I played the first match, which was One Night Stand 2 against Rob Van Dam, and that was really cool because you could do a lot of awesome things with Rob Van Dam. He's definitely my favorite person to play as in the whole game. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time anyway, but like, you can put someone over the guardrail now, and you can like go on the top rope and do the corkscrew leg drop, which is really cool. Like the spinning corkscrew leg drop, you can do that like over the guardrail and like take the people out.
Imagine being the developers of those games and like thinking of all the crazy things that people want to do or that you want to do in a wrestling game and just not having the time to implement them.
I think that's like the hardest thing about their job is like, who are the most fickle fans in the universe? Wrestling fans. Who are even more fickle? Video game fans. You put them both together, you have like this demon child. It's like, you can't appease either of them. So it's like, all right, well, we got to make this game. Okay, well, if we leave this one move out, this guy's going to be angry. But if we put this one move in, this other guy's going to be like, oh, why didn't you put this move in? It's like, if we leave this one superstar out, it's like, you can't win. You just can't. It's like, everyone's all pissed off because the CM Punk fight's not in the game because he's not under contract anymore, and I was like, you know what? You win some, you lose some.
See him puke.
But if they're not under license, they can't technically use them.
I mean, Phil took his ball, went home. I mean,
that's right. That's what he gets. That dude sucks.
So I have no respect for that dude. Like,
yeah,
whatsoever.
CM Punk. CM Punk's cancer everywhere he goes.
No respect. It's okay though. WrestleMania's next week, and I'm really excited.
Dude.
I know I'll be watching it.
Oh, dude. And NXT looks really good, too.
Can't wait. Can't freaking wait.
Starts next Saturday at 1 p.m. for NXT.
Sucks because I'm going to miss like the first half of it. I'm going to miss all of NXT and then probably the first half of WrestleMania because my brother's and his wife's baby shower.
Priorities, man.
You got the network. You got the network, right? Just put that shit on.
Yeah, I'm like, what an inconsiderate friggin' douche getting your baby shower. First kid. I mean, come on.
Of all the weekends you could pick to do it.
Yeah, right?
You know, Darrell, what I think he's trying to do is like you know how many like wrestling events they stuff on a WrestleMania weekend just to kind of ride the coattails and get some of that WrestleMania glow on him. That's what your brother's trying to do. He's trying to get some WrestleMania glow on his baby shower.
That's right. That's what it is. So he's going to mess around and half the dudes going to be standing in the corner watching WrestleMania on their phones.
All right, Joe. Wrapped up pretty well, sir.
Yeah,
take it over, Yield.
No, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
All right, Yield, sir. Microphone is yours.
So I've been playing some Immortals: Phoenix Rising, the Lost Gods DLC.
How's that main game, Yield? I want to play that.
Main game is really good. If you like Greek mythology, it's good. I personally liked how I enjoyed the combat, but I liked how the story was told. Well, without trying to, without getting into detail and giving it away, I really liked how they presented the story.
And hey, Joe, you have PlayStation Extra or Premium, right?
I mean, joke's on you, Alex. I have that game on my shelf.
Oh, well, but both.
Wait, how's the joke on me? You're the one that has it, but hasn't played it yet.
Yeah, very true, very true, very true.
But no, it's a really good game. But I've been working my way through the DLC, and I've been talking bad about this particular one. Now that I'm like 8 hours in and kind of got some of my powers and got them kind of leveled up. I use it in quotations. I won't go into too much detail. But anyway, now I'm starting to feel oh, okay, I'm starting to enjoy it a little bit more. I'm not getting my tail kicked. Although the one really annoying thing is you have to save yourself. It only auto saves when you find a prayer altar or you come out of a vault. So that's kind of few and far between. So it really sucks to get so far into the game and then you die and then you go back to your last altar and then you have to redo everything. That's annoying. But anyway, I'm starting to enjoy it more. Hopefully I can get through it here in the next week or two and then be completely done with that game. Let's see here. Been playing some World of Warship Legends, working on my bureau. It was also doubloon week, so I got my free doubloons. I've been playing some Super Volley Blast, some Super Tennis Blast, and some Super Soccer Blast. Downloaded those, like a year, or bought them like a year ago. Wanted to play them more in like a couch co-op setting, but was finally like, you know what, screw it. Been wanting to play them, so I messed around with those a little bit. Played some Helldivers with Prepare to Die, Scum, and Harry Balzonia. Did some Deep Rock Galactic. Played some Grip. Some Diablo 3 on Friday. Some Rocket League with Nitro and Alex and Riley on Thursday. Some We Were Here Forever. And some Sifu last Sunday. That's it.
That's a list.
That is a list. Like I said, I played a little bit of everything this week.
Well, it's a good thing that Joe and Yield have been playing a lot because I have been playing very few things. But Darrell, I'm going to go to you first because I saved you for second to last because obviously your playtime is going to converge a little bit with mine this week.
Absolutely. So I'll start then from just kind of, I'll end with the thing we have in common. So I've been playing some South Park Stick of Truth. That was a game that I got pledged to play from our Patreon. And it's a game that I have to kind of chip away at, when my family's not around because this game is extremely vile and awful. Also hilarious. So
very South Parkish is what you're saying.
It is very South Park. They nailed it. But so I've been playing through that. I am pretty far through it, so I'm at the end of just wrapped up the Canada section. So I'm not really sure.
Did you do it? Did you blame Canada?
I blame Canada.
There you go. Trophy for that. I really hope there's a trophy called Blame Canada.
So I've been playing some Young Justice Legacy. This is a Marvel Ultimate Alliance kind of style game, but with the Young Justice DC characters.
Is that the new one that just dropped?
No, this is the PS3 one that's terrible. And the thing is, the trophies on it are really rare, so this worked out great for this trophy contest that I'm in. And myself and Gaz are getting ready to roll into the Great Trophy Score competition April 3rd. So I figured if I would knock out a few trophies in this game and kind of get it primed up and ready for that one, that'll be some good score for us as we jump into our trophy competition. Problem is, I popped my trophies after my bracket was over with. So it is what it is. But definitely going to chip through that game on my PS3. Been playing some Goat Simulator 3. I absolutely love this game. Guys, it is so freaking good. It is so fun. Like the mini games in it and the missions and the things that you have to do are just ridiculous. They are just, my kids and I were doing 4-player co-op, split screen, and we're having so much fun. So I've been chipping away at that one. It is excellent. I've been chipping away at some Mega Tag Mention Blanc plus Neptune versus Zombies on the Vita. Not quite a Muso, but that same style of Muso. And this is kind of like an amalgamation of a bunch of these little Japanese anime-inspired, hack and slash games, all kind of up in one. Chipping away. I've got 6 trophies left to get the platinum. And I don't know, it's kind of difficult. The bosses I have to fight, I keep dying. Like they're set up to where you can play online with people or you can play ad hoc with people to get these trophies. And so obviously the bosses, their health bars are just insanely big and I just can't quite beat them. So I've just been kind of chipping away at that one. I did pop a few trophies this weekend, but a lot of the collectible sets I have to put together. I have to beat these bosses to knock out. I've been chipping away at some One Piece Pirate Warriors 3. I've been talking about this one a good bit on my show lately. Thanks, Tricky. I'm having trouble beating it and playing the game. But I've been beating some One Piece Pirate Warriors 3. Again, that is a Musou game. Really enjoy it. Dynasty Warriors style. I don't know if you guys are very familiar with Musous. I know Joe's not. He doesn't really play them very much.
I'm on that train, Darrell.
Mm.
That's multiplayer, isn't it? I can probably help you beat that.
Maybe. I'm enjoying it. It's just kind of like my lay down and go to bed, play a little bit before I go to bed. Enjoy it.
I'll buy it again on the Vita.
Do it. Let's go. And then I'll say Gotham Knights. I don't know if you guys have played much Gotham Knights, but I am in the trophy cleanup phase. I've got 8 trophies left. They are, collectible trophies. Well, actually, on the main game, I have 3 trophies left plus the platinum. Yeah. And then, of course, the DLC, I have 4 trophies left on the DLC. So, really enjoy Gotham Knights. It's much more fun than it has any right to be. I don't necessarily think it is a great game, but it is a game that got its hooks in me. And I think the last time I looked at my play clock, I was getting close to 70 hours. So, Gotham Knights is a game that I just jump in and I just punch bad guys, and it's not too involved. The boss battles are really, really cool. And right now, part of the DLC, I'm just going back and replaying through the boss battles. So, and getting the collectibles. The collectibles are awful. There's so many of them, and there's no there's not like a comprehensive way to see on the map what you have and haven't done. Like, when you have this many collectibles, there at least needs to be something you can unlock in a game that will highlight the map and say, hey, you got these, because it's awful. I've spent so many hours on collectibles. This game's probably going to burn me out on collectibles for a little while. So, and then the last game that I guess I can take credit for playing, although I haven't popped a single trophy in it yet, would be Resident Evil 4 Remake. The game is stunningly beautiful. It plays incredibly well. And I gotta be honest, I didn't think I wanted this remake until I started playing it. And it is incredible. It's so good. I haven't played very much. I've only played a little bit past the initial. So there's a demo if you guys want to try it out. And it's called the Chainsaw Demo, I believe. But essentially, it's the beginning of the game and the opening village section. I don't know if you've ever played Resident Evil 4 before. I think, Alex, you've played some of the Resident Evils, but have you played 4?
So I've been playing Resident Evil 4 as well, and I'm heading towards the lake. So I just got past the farm part of. Gotcha. I'm not very far in. I just got past the farm and where they exploded the bridge on you. Perfect.
Now, did you play the original?
No, this is my first playthrough of Resident Evil 4, which is why I bought it like the day it came out. Is because, like, you know what? Look, I love playing Resident Evil 5, and I had some fun with Revelations and 6, but like this was kind of hearing that they made improvements to some of the sections of the game.
Yeah.
Some of the escort part of it. I was like, you know what? It's about time. I've heard for years it's the best Resident Evil game, so it's about time I go back and play it. And here's the perfect opportunity.
Yeah, it really is. If you never played the original, it's definitely the best time to get in. I will say this, just from playing the original so many times, and like the opening section, they laid it out differently. Like the point A to point B is still the same, but how you get there is different. So, and it makes a little more sense. Like the way that the story flows from how you start into the village for that initial encounter, it makes more sense in the remake than it did in the original game. But the original game, it really wasn't like that big of a deal. But it definitely, just changing that path a little bit makes a difference. I will say Resident Evil 4 has always been one. I've always agreed that it's one of the best games ever made and one of the best Resident Evil games ever made. But when it comes to like expanding the universe, it was kind of self-contained. Like it really wasn't like the best Resident Evil to grow the Resident Evil universe. So I'm interested to see how they change that in this one. I've heard some rumors that they, flesh it out a little bit better. And some of the bosses in the original game were very comic booky, you know what I'm saying? like very, and actually a little even Japanese, just how over the top they are. But there are some sections in this game, the original game, that were pretty creepy, just on the initial playthroughs, that I can only imagine they're going to be ridiculous in this game. So I'm going into the farm section myself right now. So it's pretty, I mean, it's an amazing looking game and it plays really well too. I will say I do like the remakes have made the enemies more bullet spongy, and that's a little frustrating. But Resident Evil 4 was a little like you could pop them in the knee one time, make them stagger, and then kick them or suplex them. So like Resident Evil 4 was a fun game to play, not very scary overall. But we'll see.
Did they fix that in the remake though? As far as like from your
I don't know.
Perspective.
So it's kind of an amalgamation of everything they've learned from Remake 2 and Remake 3. Like Remake 2 was the enemies were super bullet spongy, and for the OG Resident Evil 2 to be my favorite game of all time, like I don't like replaying Remake 2 because it's so bullet spongy and it's really not even worth shooting anything with your pistol. It's just not.
I beat the first playthrough and I was like, I don't even want to play this again.
That's kind of how I felt. I started my second playthrough and got frustrated. Mr. X is just a little too relentless. You know what I'm saying? Like I had some issues with the way, just the design decisions. Remake 3 was they relaxed on that. It was a little bit more actiony. You could kill the zombies a little easier. You didn't necessarily go through, an entire magazine and a box of ammo to put one enemy down. And I thought that was a much more fun game, although they took a lot of stuff out that made the third game iconic to begin with. So it was, to me, it was a little bit of like oh man, this is really good, but also missing some cool stuff. This Remake 4 seems like they've learned from their mistakes. They're not near as bullet spongy, but like, dude, my first encounter, I emptied an entire magazine in a zombie and didn't kill him. So you just have to be more precise on where you put the bullet.
Well, to be fair, also, I've had to shoot some enemies in the head 3 times to kill them. Yep. I mean, like, sometimes 2 headshots isn't even enough to take them down. So,
right.
But what I've learned is, like, when they group up and they're coming after you, if you hit one in the head and then you can go melee them, all the people in that group will fall down. So you can use one melee attack to knock a bunch of them back.
And that was always what was so strong about Resident Evil 4, is that it incorporated those melee attacks, and they were over the top, like the roundhouse kick, German suplex and someone in their head exploding. That stuff was always cool. And that's where 5 and 6 got it from. Now, 5 and 6 just completely abandoned the horror and went way more action, but they were so fun to play. Now, 4 just kind of retained some of the horror. And there's bosses that really lean into it, and then a lot of the, encounters and stuff were just kind of like fun to play. But this one seems like it's going to lean into the horror and still be action and fun. So far, now I died twice in my first, encounter in the village. Like the chainsaw guy killed me twice. Like if he got close enough to hit me with a chainsaw, he put that junk through my chest. So, I mean, I've seen some really nasty death animations already, and it's pretty rad. So it can be, I don't want to say unforgiving, because like Alex was saying, if you just group them up, pop them in the head, use melee, you can get away. But they definitely met in the middle. So I think this is going to be an excellent game just off my first hour of it. So.
And I saw that Mark Duplex was also playing this when I started to play it on Friday. But I think it's important to note that for people looking for a platinum trophy, this may not be your game, because it's rated as a 7 out of 10 difficulty on Power PYX, and on PlayStationTrophies.org it's an 8 out of 10, because you have to beat the game on professional from a new game. And like Darrell said, like I died quite a few times on that first village ambush at the beginning of the game in Chapter 1. And honestly, Darrell, I'm gonna need you to talk me back from the ledge a little bit, because for someone just coming to that game, that scene is very, very off-putting, because obviously this is a survival horror game, and one of the things about Resident Evil is ammunition it's a very scarce resource. You have to take care of that. And in that scene, I feel like they developed it counterintuitive to that, because there are so many enemies coming after you. Like a group of 10, and then you get past that and into another group of 10, and then the chainsaw guy comes, and then you see people jumping over fences to get in. And maybe you can clarify. It's because I thought, oh my God, I have to kill all these people. I don't have enough ammo. I can't do this. Like, I was about ready to step away from the game, be like, you know what? Maybe this game's not for me. And then the bells on the church tolled. And then all the enemies stopped what they were doing, including the chainsaw guy. And then they left me alone, and they went down to their little church and locked the door behind them. But with the village, do you just have to survive a certain amount of time, or do you have to kill a certain amount of enemies? What's the trigger for the church bells?
So it's a little bit of both. So as in the original game, you can kill everybody. You can even kill the chainsaw guy. Well, you can down him. But it seemed like it was a timing thing. You just ran around for a certain amount of time. For me, in this one, I have played through it, and the bell rang when it seemed like after I took a certain amount of enemies down, I felt like the bell rang kind of quickly. I was doing one run and I ended up dying on it, and I lasted twice as long in that run as I did in the one where the bell actually rang. Ideally, you're not, from what I can tell, you're not going to be able to kill everybody. You just have to do a certain amount of damage, and then the bell will ring. So I think, but see, that game, Resident Evil 4 in general, that section is really just supposed to introduce to you what you're dealing with. It doesn't do that again. At least the original doesn't do that again the rest of the game, because it really does dump a ton of enemies on you. So it gives you the option to experiment with stealth. This game has stealth kills in it. That's really cool. And it gives you the option to, you'll find the shotgun in there, you find a grenade in there, you do find a little bit of ammo. And so for me, I was able to group them together, make some headshots. Once I cleaned out my shotgun, and then I took a few enemies down. And it also could be, I don't know, because I haven't played it enough times to learn, but it could be that you just do a certain amount of damage to the chainsaw guy. It might even not be that you take out so many enemies. But it seemed like the time that I actually progressed through, I was way shorter than when I lived longer, but took out less enemies. So it could be 6 in one hand, half dozen in another. I'm not sure yet. But in the original game, you could kill everybody, and it'll stop. So I don't know. But I will say this though: you push through. You know what I'm saying? Like the Resident Evil has always been a game of your first playthrough is when you are starved for supplies the most. Then your playthroughs thereafter, you just, between management of your inventory and upgrading of your weapons and unlocking different things. That one, it's always been something to where in your multiple playthroughs thereafter, you are better equipped. But the first playthrough is always the one where it seems like there's never enough. And as soon as you get ammunition, as soon as you get weapons and resources, they take it away from you. So.
Yeah, and the New Game Plus playthrough of this, which is where the game gets really fun. That was the best part about Resident Evil 5 is doing New Game Plus. You can buy an infinite rocket launcher to help you get through the game faster, because there's some trophies I think that you have to get an S plus ranking on, and you've got to beat the game in under 8 hours, and another one you got to beat under 5 hours. So some of that ammo, some of that stuff will come in handy. So if you can just push through the first standard playthrough, you can play on assisted mode for an easier difficulty on New Game Plus, and get all the collectibles you need, and then eventually buy an infinite rocket launcher, which will be a lot of fun to play with. But yeah, that whole first scene really, as a new player to Resident Evil 4, having no history with it kind of put me off, because I'm like, man, I know, in Dead Space, like I never had, like with a plasma cutter, I never had less than like really 100 rounds. I had, most times above 150 rounds. So like saving ammo was easy for me. But in this game, I'm like, my God, I'm just, in that one scene in particular, I'm like, I have to just to survive. I can try running around, but in that village, the streets are narrow. You get into a building, you get trapped with all those people, and we're talking like 50 enemies coming at you, 60 maybe. And to me, it was just kind of like, how am I supposed to do this with the limited amount of ammo I have? And Leon, like, he's not running super fast. So yeah, I just got a little bit frustrated, but I was eventually able to get through it on my 3rd or 4th try, I think. So I did push through, but yeah, that was a frustrating thing for me. I guess they just kind of throw you into the fire, and then hopefully there's no other scene like that, because I really don't want to get,
There's other stuff coming that is, difficult and probably overwhelming at your first time through. But there's no other village like that, throughout the game. Now, But by the time you get to these other things, you will have unlocked so much other stuff. Like, this game allows you to maximize or be a minimalist. However, you decide when it comes to your guns and your inventory and that case that you carry, that briefcase. So it's very cool. It's very cool. This game introduced so many things that just were so different, to the franchise, and really did change games in general. I mean, Resident Evil 4 gets a lot of credit for inspiring tons of franchises. I mean, even, Gears of War, Cliff Bleszinski gives credit to, Gears of War is what it is because of Resident Evil 4. So it's interesting. And I think it's a great game, the original. And I think that, I think you'll enjoy it overall. I think in the beginning there, they want to, kind of set the expectations of this is not going to be a walk in the park. And I haven't played the Dead Space remake yet. I still haven't picked that up, which is really bad on me. But I did play through Dead Space 1 and 2 recently. And I remember my first playthroughs of Dead Space feeling like the plasma cutter was the greatest freaking weapon ever created. I never felt like, like I ever needed anything else other than the plasma cutter. So
yeah, I mean, there is a trophy for going through the game with only the plasma cutter. I would recommend doing that on the New Game Plus playthrough, because New Game Plus is handled really well in that. But even on the hardest difficulty, line cutter the plasma cutter line gun, only 2 guns you need. Force gun maybe will be very helpful towards the end in the later chapters, but line gun and plasma cutter will do you very well. And if you keep the other guns in your locker, like out of your, your on-person storage, you won't receive any ammo for them.
Correct.
So you'll just get plasma cutter ammo, which if you have like the contact beam and all that in your storage, like on your person, you will also get a mix of that ammo, so if you don't want to use a gun in Dead Space, make sure to put it in your locker so you're not collecting ammo, which is why I was able to collect so much plasma cutter ammo.
Yep.
But yeah, so Resident Evil 4, played some Rocket League with Yield and with Nitro and Riley. And also, if you've read the update from Gaz, he put out the update today, and I did very well. I got 11 Ultra Rare trophies from one game. That game is Cartoon Network Battle Crashers. It is a side-scrolling beat-em-up, and it is not a great game. I think... So there's a couple reasons why I feel safe with those Ultra Rare trophies that I got staying Ultra Rare trophies. One, most of them are 1% rarities on the PSN, or on PSN profile, so even if everybody in the competition played it, it's not going to move the needle that much. And this is a 7-year-old game that has got a 21% score on Metacritic, and I don't think anyone's going to go spend the money to buy it, so I'm pretty safe with, even if all of you play it, that they're going to stay Ultra Rares. But yeah, I mean, it's a side-scrolling beat-em-up featuring some of the newer Cartoon Network characters like Finn and Jake the Dog. It's got Steven Universe, it's got Clarence, it's got Uncle Grandpa, Gumball, and then the bird and the I can't remember, the Blue Jay. I can't remember his name. Mordecai, and I can't remember the duo there, but Mordecai is one of them. But yeah, it's just super repetitive. Each character has like one like melee move tied to the square button, and then you've got a couple special moves beyond that. But really, the combat's super repetitive. Each level is just basically like a straight line from beginning to end. And music's really repetitive, so it's not a great game. The only reason you would ever want to play it is the Ultra Rare trophies. It's not hard to get them. So if you want to get Ultra Rare trophies for the competition, it's a great game in that regard. But overall, like a review I read for it basically said that it felt like a Flash game that somebody turned into a full retail release. So yeah, but I mean, a couple nice notes on it. One, there is couch co-op. You can play up to 4 players, and there are 6 playable characters in the game, and you don't have to you're not tied to one on your playthrough. You can literally switch on the fly within a level to any character, that obviously isn't dead, because if you lose one character, then you just move on to another one, and you can't pick the character that's been knocked out. So being able to switch on the fly is a good thing, but obviously we've played much better beat-em-ups like Shredder's Revenge, Castle Crashers, so this one just feels really lackluster. And, if you're like me, you grew up on a lot of the Powerpuff Girls, I Am Chicken, and, IR Baboon, and I Am Weasel, Cow and Chicken. So, like, having some of those characters would make it far more interesting, but having the newer ones in there, it's like, I get it, it's more contemporary. But, yeah, not a great game, but if you want Ultra Rare trophies, they're very easy to get, so... Yeah, that is what I've been playing.
Is that co-op? Like, can we play that together, like using like ad hoc, like multiplayer? Or
I think it's only couch. I don't think I saw nothing as far as like online. I'll have to look into that. But I mean, if you need help with it, but I mean, honestly, like I feel like I did it on my own because like one of the trophies is play every game in multiplayer, but beat every level on multiplayer. But all you have to do for that is play through the game, each level on single player, and then before you get to the end, before you finish, just press X on another controller, and then have both, on both controllers, have the characters go through to the end, and you've completed all you need to do to get credit for playing multiplayer on the level. So there is a workaround, a very easy workaround for that. So to be honest, Joe, you wouldn't even need me.
Sweet.
All right.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I've been playing, and we actually jumping into our news. If flowing nicely, we got more Resident Evil news. If you didn't already get enough Resident Evil for Resident Evil release week, this article comes from Destructoid.com. The headline reads: Resident Evil 4 has already broken franchise Steam player records. This is written by Chris Moyse. Quote, today sees the release of Capcom's long-awaited Resident Evil 4 remake, which launches on PlayStation, PC, and Xbox platforms after much hype and hoopla. And it seems that the title has already seen top-tier level success, setting the series' best-ever player record on PC gaming dashboard Steam. According to the Steam database, an amazing 140,240 players were simultaneously logged in and making their way through the Ouroboros-infested nightmare earlier today. This number represents the highest amount of Steam user concurrently playing any Resident Evil release at any one time, including previous remakes Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, as well as modern mainline sequels Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, and Resident Evil Village. So, obviously, I mean, I guess this kind of, I don't know, I mean, obviously some of these people are people who played before, others, maybe jumping on, the bandwagon saying, you know what, I've heard so much about Resident Evil 4, or maybe I played Resident Evil 2, the remake for the first time, and then I played Resident Evil 3, and maybe I'm just, just going in sequence there. But, I mean, the success of this game, Darrell, I mean, what do you attribute all this to?
Well, I think that it comes, with two things, right? So Capcom's built up so much momentum. Capcom has been just on fire since, well, I would say, 2016-ish, Like they released that one multiplayer shooter that everyone hated, Umbrella Corps. And then that was kind of after Resident Evil 6. And then we had the Revelations games kind of reinvigorate the fan base a little bit. So then we had Resident Evil 7. So it was like, man, they had a couple stinkers. And then they had, okay, we're getting primed up. We're really liking it. Resident Evil 7 came out, and then the fans were loving it. Then they dropped the Mega Man Legacy Collection. They dropped the Monster Hunter Worlds. And so the fans, just Capcom fans all around, like, man, they've been really good to us. They've been hitting it over and over and over. Then we got Remake 2, Remake 3. We got Resident Evil 8. We got the Resident Evil 4 Quest VR. I mean,
Devil May Cry 5.
Devil May Cry 5, yeah. And so, and then what was it? Sunbreak for the new Monster Hunter Rise and all that stuff. So, like, Capcom has just been on fire, just one hit after another. And then, so they're primed up, they're ready. They got a lot of good grace with the fans. They're remaking Resident Evil 4, which is, in my opinion, and my stance on it, has been a very dangerous, that this could be the one that knocks you off, because this game received 10s out of 10s out of 10s out of 10s when it came out. And this game it's got the Skyrim treatment already. You can play Resident Evil 4 on everything. You can play Resident Evil 4 on your toaster. It's been remastered and re-released on every system. Capcom has never been shy about putting Resident Evil 4 out. So it's kind of one of those things to where it's like, you've already given us this a lot. Now you're going to remake it. You could potentially mess it up. And it seems like all the early reception and reviews and stuff has been extremely positive. A lot of the influencers that I follow in the Resident Evil space have already posted their playthroughs, between 11 to 14 hours. And they're like, this thing is killer. This is amazing from start to finish, And then my first hour with it, I had a really busy weekend. I wasn't able to really dig into it like I wanted to. My first hour with it was extremely positive. So I think it's just, man, a combination of you're taking a legacy IP that already has, it was already a good game. You already had good bones. All you had to do was clean it up, make it, great for today's standards. And then they got all this good grace. I just think Capcom's on a roll, man. I mean, they're just one after another, just hitting it out the park.
Where's Onimusha?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, Joe, who knows? Maybe that'll come at some point, Joe, but let's be real. I mean, they already are set for a big year. Resident Evil 4 Remake, Exo Primal, they got Street Fighter 6 coming out in June. So, I mean, like, Joe, one, are you any more tempted to buy Resident Evil tonight? But also, like, how good does this year look for Capcom?
Well, I mean, I don't know if any developer is going to have a better year than Capcom. Maybe Square, maybe Nintendo. I don't know. It's crazy because honestly, like, it's like Capcom just, like Darrell said, they just keep knocking it out of the park, one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, and it's like they don't fail. They even put out, didn't they put out a game on Switch too that didn't come out anywhere else? I can't remember, but they made the Mega Man, another Mega Man collection's coming out in like a month.
Well, they are put the Battle Network collection, but they also
which I'm excited for. I love Battle Network. I can't wait to play those again.
Well, lest we not forget Mega Man X Legacy Collection and the Mega Man X Legacy Collection 2. So, I mean, one of those is obviously much better than the other one. But, I mean, yeah.
Even the anniversary collections were great.
Yeah.
I mean, not as good as the one of the GameCube, but, beggars can't be choosers,
Well, and how about that? Like, Resident Evil 4 came out on the GameCube, and Resident Evil is not on the Switch. Resident Evil 4, the remake's not on the Switch.
I don't mind that. I'm sure it'll be on there in some fashion where they have to like make it run off the cloud and it runs all crappily.
Yeah, that's what they've done with the other ones.
It'll wind up getting there somehow. I just, I'm fine with it not being there. It doesn't need to be there. I think enough people will buy a PlayStation or own an Xbox that they can play it there. I don't think it's necessary for everything to be on everything anymore.
And Yield, sir, I know that you're not necessarily... I mean, first of all, is there any chance of you jumping into a Resident Evil game?
No.
Well, at least he's honest.
Yeah, I mean, no, Yield is always honest. Is okay, so not Resident Evil 4, but is there anything... Yield, what was the last Capcom game you played?
That's a good question. It's been many, many years ago.
Have you ever played a Resident Evil game before, Yield?
Yes, back on the PS1.
Oh, dang. So you played the OG tank control games.
Yes.
Oh, that was one thing I did notice about Resident Evil 4 is like, oh my god, no tank control, so I can move and aim.
Yep. So here's my question, Yield. Do you like good graphics?
Yes, I just don't enjoy horror games.
Is that a trick question? Who doesn't enjoy good graphics?
Do you like third-person shooters?
Yes.
Okay, do you like good stories?
Yes.
All right, well, I mean, hey, if you ever decide to play something with a little bit of scary to it, this is a good game for you.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, like, so they set it up like a horror game because obviously the beginning of the game, you're driving with two police officers. Your goal is to rescue the daughter of the president who's gone missing in Europe. And, you're, obviously one of the cops goes to take a piss and disappears and you got to go after him. You got to find out what happened to him because he's taking too long, and then you leave and you find him and he's not so great shape. And then later on in the story, maybe 20 minutes later, you find the other cop who you left in the car and he's not in great shape. So they do set it up kind of like this, horror movie, but I don't know. It's not really, I guess the scariest part so far for me was just the overwhelming odds in that one fight. I don't really know if they set it up like Monster Closets where stuff's like jumping out at you. It's not like Dead Space where you're on the Ishimura and like there's dark hallways everywhere and then stuff's just jumping out from the ceiling or dropping from the ceiling on you. It's just kind of like you're out in the open, it's daylight. I don't know how much horror really there is to. I mean, Darrell can obviously there's different, like you're not just in the village, you're also in the castle, you're in the island. So there's different like settings for this game, but it doesn't seem like it's really set up. It is scary in some ways, but also, other things make it not so scary.
Yeah, again, the thing that always makes horror games harder is, you have to figure out, to balance the action and the horror together, that tension. And so a few things just in this game that made it a little bit scarier than the original is, adding that bullet sponginess. They don't just react immediately. Like in the original version of Resident Evil 4, one shot to the knee, the guy falls to the ground. The roundhouse kick to the face. You can very quickly, very easily dispatch the enemies. And then you can gather enough resources from the enemies that you dispatch to take out the chainsaw guy, or at least down him. Enough to get the bell to ring. So in this game, you have very little ammo, and they require a lot of ammo. Like you said, you could pop them in the head 2 or 3 times before you could actually get one down. And you really got to group them together. You really got to get that melee. The cool thing that they added in this game is you can run and you can reload and you can kind of readjust. But they can grab you. Like, I had freaking farmer chicks running and punching me, like Superman punching me in the face. Like, they're aggressive. They're very aggressive.
But also, like you said, they'll grab and hold you for the chain. They'll get behind you, grab your arms, and they'll hold you for the chainsaw guy to come and light you up, Leatherface style.
Yep. And so the horror in this so far is tension. Now, there was one jump scare because in one of the rooms, there's a guy hidden in a closet. And if you walk by the closet, he busts out at you, even if you've already dispatched everybody and the bells rang. So, that happened to me a little while ago. I was just kind of cleaning up resources. The next thing you know, boom, this dude jumps out at me and got me. Because that didn't happen in the original game. So, it's darker. Everything's slimier and more gross looking. So, this game is going to lean into the horror. The original version, not so much. It was a little more action. And the more action you add, the more horror you take away, kind of most of the time. So,
well, Darrell, there's no end for Resident Evil 4 in sight because coming April 7th, we're going to get the Mercenaries co-op mode. This article comes from Destructoid and written by Chris Moyse. Resident Evil 4 Mercenaries mode launches April 7th. Quote, today sees the launch of Capcom's highly anticipated remake, Resident Evil 4. And for you Zombie Poppers fans out there, the publisher finally announced a launch date for popular co-op mode, The Mercenaries, which will arrive as a free update on all platforms Friday, April 7th. Mercenaries is a sometimes multiplayer mode that first made its debut with the launch of the original GameCube edition of Resident Evil 4 back in 2005. The mode sees players battling out against hordes of enemies again in an incredibly strict time limit. Typically, the mode features several characters from the respective Resident Evil title, including side characters and other NPCs. The Mercenaries mode has since appeared in sequels such as Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6, and most recently Resident Evil Village.
Yep,
so, it wasn't in Resident Evil 8, I guess?
Well, they do add it in Resident Evil 8.
Oh, no, sorry, Resident Evil 7, I guess. It said Village, but I guess it wasn't in 7, Biohazard.
No, it wasn't in 7, because I think they released something completely different back then. Because they did multiple little spin-off games. The thing is Mercenaries in 4 was really good. Mercenaries in 5 was excellent. Mercenaries in 6 was excellent. In Revelations 1 and 2, they had raid mode, which is a little bit different. And it kind of lost some of the essence of what Mercenaries really was. And then in Village, Mercenary mode is a little more like raid mode. It's not near as good. Villages, in my opinion, is one of the weakest of those modes. But Resident Evil 5, it was seriously the best. So I'm hoping that they'll kind of dial it more towards the Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5 version of Mercenaries, because it's a timed wave-based kind of shooter. You have enemies constantly spawning at you and coming at you, and they get gradually more difficult the longer you last. But you're trying to build up score. So the more enemies you kill with headshots and essentially one-hit finishers, the more score you get. But it's timed, so you got to find these floating hourglasses to break, and then there's also combo hourglasses that you can break. And so you kind of have to plan your path to where you maximize the most of your time, you kill the most enemies, and you hit your combos at the right time to where you have multiple enemies to take out at once to get that score up. And it just, man, each character had their own set of abilities and their own set of weapons. So it was very class-based, but it was good. Man, I have so many hours in Mercenaries between 4, 5, and 6. It's ridiculous. So I hope that it follows those games, not so much what Revelations 1, 2, and Village did, because it was just different.
Well, in Resident Evil 5, probably it fit perfectly in there because that game was specifically built with co-op in mind, obviously, with the introduction of Sheva Alomar.
Yep.
And, Joe, any thoughts on Resident Evil Mercenaries?
Oh, Darrell, again, I can't, it's hard to be on a show with Darrell because he hits everything on the head as far as Resident Evil goes. I mean, he is Resident Darrell, for God's sake. But, honestly, Resident Evil multiplayer, I really started getting into it from 4 on. I even like the Mercenaries game on 3DS. I thought they did a really good job with that. I think that's a fantastic game. It took what Mercenaries was and made an entire game out of it.
Yep.
Like, it's a standalone game that worked really well. It had a really large player base, actually. I'm surprised they never brought it to the Switch, honestly. Even if they just brought that to the Switch. I have to say, I really liked playing Mercenaries in 5 a lot, because I liked 5 a lot. I thought 5 was a really, really good game because it brought co-op to Resident Evil, and I thought that was a really cool twist.
And you really like Chris Redfield. You can admit it.
Yep.
I mean, I like punching rocks and shit.
Boulder puncher.
It was like punching rocks. Guy punches boulders, for God's sake. Yeah, that was really cool. Sheva could go jump off a bridge because, Chris yelling Sheva's name over and over again. Sheva, 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 Sheva. Chris, Sheva, Sheva. You remember doing that, Ray?
Oh, dude, yeah. All
messing
the time.
around for hours. Yeah. Oh, man. I like 6 a lot.
Yeah,
I feel like 6
5 twice.
I feel like 6 doesn't get enough love. It doesn't. It's really, really hard to 100% that game, but to platinum it, not so hard, but the 100% is crazy. Like, to get all the medals and to do all the side objectives in that game, which I don't even think you have to do all of them for the platinum, but to do all that stuff takes hours and hours and hours.
Well, to be fair, Capcom doesn't mess around with their trophy list because, I've got the platinum trophies in Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 and Revelations, so I platinum every Resident Evil game that I've ever played. This one probably will be different. This is probably the one that's going to break me. But you think about Vanquish, I think was published by Capcom. You've also got the Mega Man games, which are also typically very hard to platinum. The Mega Man X Legacy Collections are not so much, but most of Capcom's games, they're not fucking around with the platinum trophy. They're going to make you work for it.
They do. I've only got a handful of Resident Evil Platinums, and a lot of it is just because the nature and how they structure those trophy lists. They want you to play through the games multiple times. They want you to do speed runs. They want you to do knife runs. And their professional runs are usually pretty difficult. And I platinumed Resident Evil 5 twice. I did the PS3, PS4 version. I did the Xbox 360 100%, and I've almost 100% the Xbox One version. And I beat the game on Switch. So I went through that game a lot. I really enjoyed 5. 6, I've never platinumed just because, those medals. Gosh, getting all those freaking medals is so frustrating and so annoying. I went back through 6 not too long ago. And I've got the Platinum and Umbrella Corps. I feel like I got one more. But yeah, their trophy lists are no joke.
Well, Capcom may not be messing around, but Sony studios their first party studios usually they're going to make you work for it, but not nearly as hard as Capcom. One of the games that, you can be proud to have the Platinum Trophy in, but it's not going to make you sweat too much is Horizon Forbidden West. And today we've got more details on pre-order bonuses as well as some of the story for the Burning Shores, the upcoming DLC, which releases on April 19th. This article comes from the PlayStation blog and is written by the game director at Guerrilla, Mathis de Jong. The headline reads, Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores is available to pre-order today. Pre-order bonuses detailed. Quote, Aloy's journey continues in Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores, an expansion which sees the fierce Nora Hunter pursue a sinister threat in the untamed wilds of a far future volcanic Los Angeles, which has been racked by violent tectonic activity. Pre-orders for Burning Shores, which launches on the PlayStation 5 console on April 19th, 2023, are available as of today. Pre-ordering will give you access to the following digital bonuses. Black Tide Dye Outfit, available at the first Dye Merchant, and the Black Tide Sharp Shot Bow, available at the first Merchant in the Burning Shores. The story picks up on Aloy's story right where the Horizon Forbidden West left off, so to enter the Burning Shores, you must complete the main quest, up to and including the final quest Singularity in Forbidden West. Following the events of Singularity, she will receive a call over her focus, beginning the DLC. Aloy will then be able to travel to a dangerous new region south of the Tanakh Clanlands, where players will experience a compelling new storyline featuring new characters, machines, and adventures. We look forward to sharing more details with you very soon. So we know we're going to Los Angeles, and we know there's going to be a lot of volcanic activity. So who here is excited to play through the DLC? Yield, I know that you liked Horizon Forbidden West, even if you weren't as over the moon about it as Tricky and I were, but are you going to get this DLC when it comes out?
Oh, yeah. Any more Horizon is a good thing. I'm just surprised they're giving you a pre-order bonus for it. This just seems a little odd. So either it's substantial or this is something new Sony's trying to push.
I mean, it just seems like they're, you know, I don't know, a couple, you know, cosmetic things. But are you going to go out and pre-order it?
I don't know. I haven't even looked at the store yet. It's undecided. I mean, I'm getting it. I just don't know if I'm pre-ordering it.
And it seems like this expansion is going to be pretty sizable because, you know, they've been kind of pumping it up as a game release in some ways. Mentioning it alongside Spider-Man and Forspoken and all these other things as big releases in 2023. So, you know, a year after, this is probably going to be a pretty sizable thing. And they've confirmed that there's going to be new machines. So, Darrell, sir, how are your feelings about it? Because did you play Forbidden West?
I played some of it. I haven't finished it. So that's a game. I'll probably won't pre-order this drop, but once I finish the game, then I'll go through and pick it up. That's the one that my son, I bought it and he just immediately just burnt through the game. Like he freaking loves Horizon and Zero Dawn and Forbidden West. And so he beat the game and I played, I don't know, 6-8 hours of it. So I enjoyed what I played. It's just one of those games. There's two huge games that I bought and started and then didn't finish was Dying Light 2 and Forbidden West.
Now the question is, did your son get the platinum trophy?
No, actually. I'm actually surprised. He's almost got the platinum in the first game. I have the platinum in Zero Dawn. But he hasn't finished that one yet. And he jumped into Forbidden West and his PlayStation 5 died. It's died twice now.
Oh, really? Did you guys have to get it send it off to get refurbished and then it died again?
Yeah. So we sent it off. Like the fan kept turning off, so the console kept overheating. So we sent it off and got it back. Now it's out of warranty, and the HDMI port, I guess, came unsoldered. So I'm assuming that was from it overheating, and then it just kind of went bad. So I've got it actually sitting beside me right now to get it repaired. It's been down for a little while, so I'll get it repaired, and then I'll, he'll jump back in and eventually play it. So,
Joe, sir, love to hear your thoughts.
I have not played this yet, so I really don't have thoughts right now. I mean, I want to play Forbidden West. I had it. I've had it since Christmas, but I haven't played it.
Is it just the size of the game that's kind of kept you from playing it, or is it just other things you'd rather play than?
I mean, it's just my gigantic backlog that prevents me from playing a lot of things.
That I guarantee you continue to add to this day.
Actually, I've been really good. Like, I haven't really added too much this year, which is kind of been my goal again this year, same as last year. I'm a Black Friday shopper now. I pretty much don't buy a lot of games during the year, wait till Black Friday, and then spend like $200-$300 in one clip and just buy everything that I missed for the year and just stack up for next year. So it's like I'm like a bear that hibernates in the winter.
Bears got to eat good before they go hibernate, and Sony has certainly been feeding us well over the last couple years. This article comes from Destructoid.com, written by Chris Carter. Sony beats out Nintendo in Metacritic's latest annual publisher rankings. And, I mean, the way that headline is kind of structured, it makes it seem like Sony, or like Nintendo's number 2. Nintendo was outside the top 10 for this, so they weren't even close to Sony. Quote, 2022 was a really strange year for gaming. We had quite a few big releases, but some of them were only released in 2022 because they were delayed, in several cases repeatedly. Some projects were even delayed out of 2022. That's what makes this newest annual ranking list from Metacritic so interesting. Going solely off critical rankings, Metacritic managed to muster up a full top 45 list based on 2022 releases, and Sony took the top spot. They're followed by Paradox Interactive, who released a string of critically well-received and sometimes niche games, and surprisingly, Activision Blizzard, who is currently riding high off the mostly positive reception for the Diablo 4 beta. Mixed into the top 10 are Focus Entertainment, Take-Two, Capcom, Sega, who also owns Atlas, Annapurna, who did Stray, Humble Games, and Devolver Digital. If you're wondering where the other big 2 publishers are, Nintendo clocks in at the 12th spot, and Microsoft proper isn't on the list at all because they didn't meet the minimum required of releasing 5 games last year. Do better, Microsoft. If you're looking for a bit of math-based fun, you can check out the main info here. See, you can spot your favorite publisher. Let me go down. Let's see. If you're curious, here's how Metacritic came up with the ranking system. Which game publishers released the best games in 2022 for the 13th consecutive year? We sifted through 12 months of data to determine the best and worst publishers of the year, based solely on the quality of their 2022 releases. Sales and user reviews do not factor into these rankings. Only critical reviews are used to evaluate the performance. Publishers are ranked from worst to best in the gallery above on a point system calculated according to the following 4 factors. 1, average Metacritic score for all games released in 2022, 150 possible points, awarded 1.5 times the average Metacritic score. Number 2, percentage of scored products with good reviews, Metacritic of at least 75, 100 possible points. Number 3, percentage of scored products with bad reviews, 49 or lower in this case, or a lower percentage is better, 100 possible points. And number 4, great number of great titles, Metacritic of 90 or higher, minimum of 7 reviews, awarded as a 5 bonus points for each distinct title with a 90 plus score. So that is how they go about that. But yeah, Sony's the tops when it comes on Metacritic for, their game. I think that Activision obviously, Sony doesn't put out as many games, I think, as Activision, but obviously, we always talk about Microsoft and Sony, and I'm surprised, 1, Nintendo's outside the top 10, but 2, Sony's games are always very highly rated. It seems like, if a Sony first-party game dips below 80, it's like, what's going on with this one? So, yep. They weigh the crown. It's what we always talk about. Sony does games well. We always talk about it. Microsoft may have Game Pass, but Microsoft cannot match Sony for game quality. So, anybody got any specific thoughts about this list, or is it just kind of yeah, this is what we thought?
I love the fact that Microsoft didn't even qualify because they didn't release enough games. That just solidifies what we've been saying for forever, that they keep buying, but they just don't produce. So I like hearing it because it makes me feel like I'm not crazy and that I actually do what I know I'm talking about.
Yep. And Joe, Yield, anything you want to say about this?
No. That's not surprising. I was glad to see Devolver Digital in the top 10.
Devolver Digital published the game Weird West that I played earlier this year, and that's a very good game. So obviously one of those studios kind of just that popped up out of nowhere based on doing a lot of indie projects, not a heavyweight when they started out, but obviously have, made a real name for themselves in the space. So you always like to see them do really well.
Yeah.
What a shocker. Microsoft didn't put out live games.
Who here didn't see that coming?
Apparently the Microsoft fans, because they keep buying Game Pass.
Game Pass. They don't have to put games out. They just rent them.
We're gonna get all them day one releases. Yeah. Good luck on that one. What day one releases?
Joe, if you're not shocked by Microsoft's lack of games in 2022, you might be shocked to learn that Forspoken reportedly cost $100 million to make, and players are baffled. This article is from Games Radar and was written by Ali Jones. Quote, Forspoken reportedly cost more than $100 million to make. The LinkedIn account of the game's lead writer, Allison Reimer, describes Forspoken as a fantasy AAA video game with a release set for fall 2022, the game's release window before its second delay. Discovery of Reimer's comments comes a few days after, and Reimer's comments said that it had a $100 million budget. Discovery of Reimer's comments come just a few days after Square Enix said that the game's sales had been lackluster and its financial failings posed a considerable risk to its parent company. It thought that the game's underperformance led closely to the reabsorption of its developer, Luminous Productions, back into Square Enix, and may have contributed to the departure of the publisher's president. That $100 million figure has been met with shock on Twitter, with one user suggesting that they must have accidentally added a zero. There's no way that game had a $100 million budget. Plenty of responses are struggling to see where all the money would have gone, not least because Forspoken reviews didn't speak to a game of that kind of quality. While we don't often see behind the financial curtain of AAA projects, it's likely hoped that a nine-figure price tag would result in a Metacritic score of more than 64, which is where Forspoken currently dwells. Currently dwells and is likely going to stay there. This sheds I wanted to share this because we didn't talk about it last week, but it's a follow-up to stuff we've recently talked about. Obviously, Luminous being reabsorbed back into Square Enix after being, spun out in 2018 to do new projects. But, man, that's a huge budget, and you got to wonder if Square Enix really didn't have the oversight over the team and just let the team trusted the team to do what they wanted, and then, they would have to allocate that budget to the team. So someone must have had notes on that. But, yeah, with a budget of $100 million, if the game didn't sell well, you can kind of understand why it was underwhelming. I mean, you can give Square Enix shit for, other things like Tomb Raider and Guardians of the Galaxy, but this may be one of those cases where Square Enix might have been right to be disappointed because it cost so much to make the game.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I was so immediately turned off by the opening, showing the trailers of the game that I just moved out of my freaking mind, and I just was like, yeah, this isn't for me. Like, the dialogue was so incredibly cringy just from the marketing material that I was like, you know what? I'll pass on this one, and this will be one of those real cheap pickups down the line. So I have no interest in.
Yeah. I mean, well, Tricky said in the chat that they were wrong for spending so much money on it, but I mean, yeah, you want to give an IP a chance, a new IP especially, but when you're at Square Enix and you're so risk averse, which, I mean, we can all understand, but when you've had games that didn't fulfill your expectations, spending that much money, you probably should have thought twice about it. We've gotten, Yields talked a ton about this, but I mean, Joe, before we move on, your thoughts on this situation with Square Enix and really your just kind of views on Square Enix as a whole.
I mean, it just sucks when you can't make any games because every time you turn around and make a game, people don't buy it or people review bomb it and then they don't buy it. So, like, we'll never get any new franchises because people just want the same old shit over and over again. And then they get mad that we're just getting the same old shit over and over again. It's like you can't appease anybody in modern gaming anymore. It's just kind of like, I don't get it. It's like, okay, so what, do you just want them to make Final Fantasy games?
Forever.
Yeah, but I mean, this game wasn't review bombed, right? This was just, I mean, as Darrell said, like, he was turned off immediately by the game.
I think it was.
You think the critics review bombed this?
Yeah, I think they did.
I just think, dude, I don't think there's anything out there that suggests it's good. I think CJ said there's a competent RPG buried in there somewhere. But
That's what I heard too.
Yeah, but this game, like, from what I've read about it, that
the writing's terrible.
Writing's terrible. Yeah. The graphics are not great, and the game didn't run well when it released.
It's kind of sad when that's one of the teams that makes core Final Fantasy games, and they split off to make something else because they no longer wanted to just keep making Final Fantasy games. But now they got reabsorbed by the Final Fantasy team and shut down. And it just shows you that in modern gaming, you make one mistake and your studio is closed.
$100 million mistake.
It's crazy. Yeah, but it's only $100 million because Square can afford to eat that much.
Right.
Like, if that was anybody else, if they even, like, slipped up in the development stage, they would have been done. It's just I don't know. It's modern gaming sucks because it takes so long to make a game. It takes so long to come out, and then if they're not good, they're just not good, and then we have way less games to play.
I mean, that just goes along with how games have evolved and what we expect. If they're going to be like movie quality or, characters and stories that you can believe in, it's going to cost a lot of money to make that happen. And it's just kind of the point in the industry where we are, where it's not like you can just make a side-scrolling 8-bit game anymore and be successful. People expect a lot more. And so it just goes along with publishers and developers. I mean, they have to, reel in their budgets a little bit. Maybe the studio deserves some blame for what they use the money for, but also, again, Square Enix, you're putting that much money into a project and you expect to recoup that on a new IP. I mean, that's a little nuts. That doesn't happen every day. So I don't know. People want new IPs. It's just sometimes you look at projects and there's just poor management. So yeah, I don't think you can blame people for this game's failings. It clearly looks like it rests on Luminous and Square Enix. At least that's just my opinion.
I don't know. It's like the second game they've really failed on back to back. It's like Square, they made all those mistakes with Avengers too, and they lied. They profusely just kept lying to people. And I know Tricky's probably listening, or he might be listening, but like, they gave us this giant roadmap, and they said all these characters were coming, and then it just took too long to develop them, and they just didn't want to put the time and resources into developing them, and they just never gave you any of them. Like, the game had such promise, but like, it just shows you that like, people want meaty games. They don't want not everybody wants these just like Division type or like Rocket League, or like, people want games too. Like, people like their games of service, but people want meaty games to play, and there's not enough of them anymore. There's just not. There's a lot of good indie games to play, but those like meaty first party games, they're few and far between right now. And I think it really shows you the problem with modern gaming. I hope that we have a plethora of games come out for like the start of next gen, because it's like if you don't start making your games for next gen now, are we even going to have any launch games? They take so long to make.
Well, it seems like, Joe, that you're quite discouraged by this recent news, and we've got our PAX report, our floor report from Tricky, our man on the scene. So hopefully there's games coming out of that you will enjoy, give you a little bit of a pep up, make you feel a little bit better about the situation.
I wanted Forspoken to be good. I wanted it to be good.
So did great. Sony and Square Enix.
But like, it baffles my mind that you can make a game, spend that much money on marketing, and it's a complete piece of shit. But then again, they did the same thing for CD Projekt did the same thing with what's his face, Cyberpunk. They just that game was like praised to know it was just crazy how much publicity they put on that game, knowing how much of a dumpster fire it was. And they did the same thing with No Man's Sky. So it's like Sony has a track record of doing this now. It's like it makes me weary sometimes. Like if it's not like a Sony published game, it makes me weary that they're putting this much advertisement and time into it. Like, what are they hiding? Because they don't pump up a lot of things, but they pump the shit out of this game, and I don't understand why.
Maybe they trusted Square Enix too much.
Complete, like, dumpster fire, from what I've heard. And I'm going to play it. Like, I'm going to get it when it's on the cheap. Like, I'm sure it'll be a GameFly for, like, $20 used.
Well, I guarantee at some point it'll come to PlayStation Plus.
Isn't it only a PS5 game, though? It's not a PS4 game, right?
I think it's only PS5.
Like, that makes me cringe even more, because, like, how do you drop the ball when this is just a PS5 game? I can understand if you're, like, multi-developing for different generations or even different consoles, but, like, you literally just had to make a PlayStation game.
I'm more shocked that they spent $100 million and they couldn't even make a decent game.
I mean, I'm not. It takes a lot to make a game now. Like, a lot of money. Like, a lot of money.
Well, let's see if we can turn that frown upside down there, Joe. Now, with Tricky here to fact check us with what he sent us all this information. I'm reading it verbatim, so if it's wrong, it's something Tricky did. You guys ready to jump into the floor report from PAX?
Let's do it.
All right, so Tricky's been there for days now, working hard, and the first game that we have a little information from Tricky about is a sequel to Road 96 called Road 96 Mile Zero, being released on all systems with a $13 cost. Sequel that is a prequel following Zoe's origins. Trophies pertain to getting S ranks on levels, being released on April 2nd. And guys, if you wanted to stop me and talk about some of these games, I'm more than happy to. I've never heard of the original game, but I know that Yield said he actually owns it.
I haven't played it yet, but it looked interesting. It was on sale, so I picked it up one day.
All right. The next game is a game that actually sounds pretty interesting to me, called Goons, Legends, and Mayhem. It's an NBA Jam style hockey game, which we kind of had, previously with NHL Hits. But this one looks a little bit more cartoony than NHL Hits. I was
gonna say from the trailer I saw, it looks nothing like NBA Jam. But anyway,
I think maybe he just means arcade over the top style action.
He's on fire.
Then that it does look like.
Yeah,
sign me up for that,
dude. Yes.
3v3, 2v2, and 1v1 with bots at different difficulties, fully online and couch co-op, no microtransactions, skins for players and sticks, all earned with in-game currency, $20 price tag, and game launches with 6 maps and 8 characters with DLC to come.
Let's go.
Yeah.
The trailer looked interesting because you could be like penguins and all kinds of different people.
Yeah, the first person.
It wasn't your traditional hockey ring. They had like weird looking hockey rings and like you were doing Zamboni stuff, fighting each other. So it looked interesting.
Yeah, one of the characters is a wizard and he's got like a curled up, like a stick that's kind of curled on the end. And like he just kind of pulled it off a tree and started playing with it. So, he's got like his little wizard staff and he's playing hockey with it. So, I mean, it seems like I would assume maybe that each character it's kind of class based with each character having their own special power. Tricky said, personal note, I played it and it was fun and hard to score as the goalie was very on point. Controls were lagging as pass and shoot didn't respond sometimes at all, but it was a demo at a game show, so it wasn't fully developed. Told the dev, he said we were playing a PC version with controllers and that they were about the bug. aware of the bug. Game just needed to be restarted and the problem was fixed. So I think Tricky said this game doesn't come out until no release date, but will come out in 2023. So, I mean, they still, with no release date, have some time to work on it, but it seems like there are some issues with the game. But, I mean, hopefully they get everything worked out, all the kinks worked out, because definitely seems like an interesting and fun game to play. Something, we could all play online together as a group and, hopefully have some fun with it. So that was Tricky's first day. Anybody want to make any comments or anything,
Good job, Tricky.
Needs more cowbell.
Gotta have more cowbell.
Way more cowbell.
Trying to roll through all my notes to see where the next section of games is. God dang, Tricky. All right, so we got an update here. Game is called Infernax. It's out now, single player at the moment, but multiplayer will be out in 2 weeks. Online co-op is only for PC due to Studio not being able to do it with consoles, as would be too hard. Couch co-op costs $20, 6-hour campaign. All your actions affect the world. All upgrades are shared along with XP. Each death is unique. Water is bad, so you drown. You can't swim. Dev says to save every time you get a chance, as it is a hard game and random things can and will kill you. Game also has an Easter egg that allows you to beat the game in 4 seconds. Dev describes the game as a love child between Zelda 2 and Castlevania 2. Been in development for 10 years. Is that a good thing? Like a love child of Castlevania 2 and Zelda 2? Because I don't think that either one...
Zelda 2, so...
I mean, look, I played Castlevania 2 at the end of last year, and I see the positives of that game, but also when it comes to the timeline of Castlevania, that's not one of the more revered games. So, yeah, neither one of those games are really, top of the pecking order when it comes to either Zelda or Castlevania, so... I don't know, that makes me more wary than anything. But, next game, Homeseek, Mad Max type world, PC Steam in the summer, consoles to follow, campaign is 30 hours, multiplayer players can invade but not free will, only during events. Players that invade will not cripple your town, but you will suffer a loss. So it seems like they can hurt you, but are not going to the point where it's going to hurt you too badly. DLC is planned, new building and combat mechanics. Next game, before we go on to the next game, which is a game that I'm very, very looking forward to, it might be my game of the show. Anybody see anything about these games, watch any trailers, see any press, excited for these games? Anybody?
I haven't seen anything for the ones you've mentioned thus far.
If you're mentioning the next one I think you're mentioning, it's probably everyone's game of the show.
Correct.
Yes, so I actually shared...
Waited 2 years for this damn game.
See, I didn't know this.
2 years.
I didn't see this into a recent article. So I shared an article about this game on the Trophy Wars Facebook page, and I had no idea it was coming out until...
Oh, I saw this game way before our friend was working on this game, and then he side messaged me and he's like, I'm working on that. And I was like, what?
So yes, we will have actually a future guest. I don't know. Can I reveal his name?
Yep.
Yeah,
okay, Patrick is going to be coming on the show to talk about the game. He actually does, 50 of the voices in the game?
Yep.
So he does a lot of voices.
All the wrestlers.
Yeah, he does a lot of the voice work in the game. So he'll be on to talk about WrestleQuest in the future. I can't remember when it is. I think it's April 9th. Is that the day? I don't know.
Yes.
In early April.
April 9th. It's April 9th,
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. But the game is called WrestleQuest, and that has to be a reference to WrestleFest, the old 1980s, 1990s arcade game, right?
It's an amalgamation, obviously, of that. It's a play on that, and obviously, like Dragon Quest. So it's an RPG because it's an RPG.
Well, and a lot of the characters in this, Legion of Doom, Andre the Giant, Coco Beware, they're from the golden era of WWE, so it fits in there when WrestleFest was a thing. But Tricky was quick to point out that this is not a wrestling game; it's an RPG. 12 players, 30 licensed wrestlers. I said 50 voices, but obviously that's not true. I guess Patrick did the voice for all 30 wrestlers in the game.
He does everything. The wrestlers.
No, he says he does over 50 voices. I did have that right. I guess he does more. He does the wrestlers and then 20 other voices. So, all right, I did have that right. Doubted myself, and single player, 50-hour campaign. Combat is turn-based. A lot of wrestling lore in the story, so wrestling fans will have a ton of Easter eggs to pick up on. Jeff Jarrett is an EVP on the game. No DLC currently planned, but may come in the future. We will get more hands-on when Patrick comes on the show again, April 9th. And one thing I immediately noticed about the wrestlers in the game is they have elbow joints, so they kind of look like toys. And
They're supposed to be toys, yeah.
Which will automatically set it apart from most wrestling games, because like it, on one hand, it's like, oh man, this isn't like a wrestling game set in the golden era of WWE. But in that way, it's kind of nice because what's just another wrestling game? I mean, we've had Legends of WrestleMania, we've had WWE All-Stars, so we had tons of arcadey, over-the-top style wrestling games. And for this to be more of an RPG with more wrestling story and lore built in there, I don't know, that actually is probably more enticing. I'm going to stop here and let you guys comment, because obviously I think that we're all wrestling fans, so I think we all have stuff to say about this. So, Darrell, sir, I'll let you go first. What are your thoughts?
I'm excited. I think that this is a game that we've been following for, feels like at least a year. I'm excited to see what Patrick does with all these voices. We've had Patrick on the show a couple times, and he is quite the voice actor, man. He can do some stuff. So I'm excited, and I'm excited to play the game, man. I'm excited to see what it's all about, and so I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yield, sir. Because your Yield will not be here next week because he's missing for WrestleMania. Obvious wrestling fan, sir. What are your thoughts on a wrestling RPG with all the old lore built into it?
I mean, the trailer looked pretty cool. I'll be interested to see some more about it and listen to Patrick talk about it in a couple of weeks. RPGs aren't necessarily my thing, but what I saw of the trailer looked interesting, and I'll keep an eye on it.
And Joe, sir, who's been Jake the Snake is also in this.
Yeah, they got some pretty cool licensed people.
He's you obviously hear lots of complaints about Jake the Snake and him not being a great human being, but as far as wrestling goes, I love the character of Jake the Snake, so. But yeah, sir, your thoughts?
This game looks so friggin' cool. Like, just the fact that, it's, based on, I believe, the story revolves around, a kid and his action figures or something like that, or his toys that, he's, controlling this whole universe. I could be wrong, so I don't want to, overstate, but, I just want to play this game so bad. That's the only reason I'm mad I didn't go to PAX, because I want to play this. I want to play this game so bad. I've been waiting so long. It is coming to the Switch, which I'm, super happy, because it's, a very Switch-friendly game. It looks very Switch-friendly, but I also want to buy a physical copy for PS4 or PS5, because I know it is coming to those consoles, I believe, and I know it's getting a physical release from what I was told. Maybe I've been told.
And there is money behind this project, because, as what Tricky had mentioned in his notes to us, these are licensed wrestlers, so obviously to have 30 licensed wrestlers in there, they had to pay to use them in there, so it probably a decent amount of money wrapped into this project.
Dude, anything Jeff Jarrett blesses, I'm all down for. I mean,
that's right.
All you slap nuts.
All you slap nuts.
Get
on board.
You know what?
It.
We can talk about any era of Jeff Jarrett, but maybe not the WCW part. That was probably not the best part of his wrestling career.
Listen, Slapnut's run was good, and his TNA King of the Mountain run obviously is his greatest run of all time. He'll never top that, because he was finally given the ball and kind of got to run with it for a while. But I know people equate that run, though. I mean, if you want to do a wrestling tangent right now, people equate that run to the Triple H golden shovel era, where he was just burying everybody in the company and wouldn't put anybody over. And people say that Jeff Jarrett's run as King of the Mountain, that era, Jeff Jarrett, it was the Triple H Jeff Jarrett, and I was like, I don't know if it was as mighty as Triple H.
Hey man, Ron Killens and Christian got over in TNA early on, so they found a way to use people who had been properly used before.
Listen, TNA was always about the wrestling, and they built story around wrestling. It was never about the story, and then, everything else kind of just, built around the story. Whereas, I feel like WWE does a better job of doing story, and then building the wrestling around the story. The wrestling's not always the prime. They don't care as much about what happens in the ring as they do about what happens before they get in the ring. Whereas, I feel like AEW is the exact opposite. They don't care enough about the story, and they care way too much about what happens in the ring. To the point where, there's no story, and the guys, you don't even know why the guys are fighting half the time.
Yeah.
I need a good mix of both. I have to have both. But I want to play this game really bad. WrestleQuest, I mean, hopefully, I just can't wait to play this. I heard spring. Spring is all I've heard, and spring is here, so
I think I saw May.
Hey,
Yep.
man, I can't confirm nor deny that.
Well, it seems like you don't know shit about it, so it seems like...
NDAs, baby, NDAs.
Fair enough. Oh, Tricky says May is confirmed, so you're not going to have to wait much longer there.
Okay, so May is confirmed. I'm fine with that. May, I can't wait. I'm obviously assuming, and I'll go out on a limb here. I believe it releases the week of the AEW pay-per-view, the week of Memorial Day weekend.
Just so everyone stays home and plays with the golden era WB stars.
It's just going to release the weekend of Double or Nothing, probably because they'll have them at Starcast or whatever there to promote the game again. So I'm assuming it's going to release that weekend.
All right, next game we got from Tricky is Nocturnal. It's a side-scrolling action-adventure game. You're a descendant of the Enduring Flame and must defeat the mist and find out where it's coming from. Flame is the only thing to defeat the mist. Coming to all systems spring of this year. Dev got inspired by traveling to Ireland and visiting churches and finding out about ancient religion on fire. 46-hour campaign. No DLC is currently planned. There is a demo on Steam, which is 40 minutes long. Spoke to Charlene, who is the project manager for... Oh, that is the next... Sorry, some of this runs together, so it's multiple games that Tricky is...
He was reporting on the scene.
The next game, I spoke to Charlene, who is the project manager for Dear Villagers. What? Okay, I'm confused now. All right. Shovel Knight Dig is the next game he's talking about. Only on Steam, which out now. Free LDC coming out. Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon out for PS4, Steam, and Switch. Free DLC is planned. You got to do some Tricky's noted you got to do some research on this, and
I mean, both those games are out.
Yeah, those
already.
games are out now.
I mean, they're both great games. Have you played either of them, Alex? I know you love Shovel Knight. Have you played either?
I haven't played Shovel Knight. Really, the only Shovel Knight game I've ever played is the proper game and the DLCs beyond that. I'd never played Shovel Knight Showdown or anything like that.
Oh, you got to play Pocket Dungeon and you have to play Dig. They're absolutely phenomenal games.
Okay, just because you know a little bit more than we know about them, what exactly are those style of games?
So Dig is the one I have more experience with. Dig is it's kind of like, you remember SteamWorld Dig where you like dig straight down, you just keep going?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but you play Shovel Knight while you're doing it. So like enemies pop up on the screen and you fight them. And Pocket Dungeon is more of like a it's similar to Dig, but not really, where it's more of it's basically like a puzzle game, like a match puzzle, but you dig to do it. So you dig to do it, and you basically dig and you like make different like power ups, and then they like attack the enemies and stuff. It's really cool. There's boss fights. There's all kind of cool stuff. It's Shovel Knight Dig and Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon are really, really good games. They're both on the Switch. They're both amazing. I mean, I'm glad they're finally coming to PlayStation. That's pretty freaking cool.
Well, I think Dig is only on Steam, but Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon is out now for PS4, and Switch.
I know I knew one of them was out for Switch, but...
All right, next game, Don't Feed the Monkeys 2099. Dev describes it as visual voyeur game. Of course, Tricky wants to check this one out. Each camera represents a cage. People are referred to as monkeys. Your job is to observe and report. Game tells you not to interact, but when you do is when the fun happens. Fun is in quotations. You must maintain yourself to do a good job, including eating, sleeping, working out, etc. This sounds terrible. I don't want to do any of that. But be aware while doing that stuff, you miss something going on in the cage, so you must manage your time. During the monkeys' convos, you can click on the yellow words to do more research. Research is in quotes. Some of the research will be pointless. Some must have. Most will help you. Out May 25th, PC and Switch, with PS and Xbox to follow. $13 cost, over 50 innings depending on your actions and research. Let's see.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it for that game.
That's it for that game, and that's actually the last game that Tricky reported on. He actually played more games. It's just obviously with NDAs, there's stuff that he can't talk about. So yeah, that's Tricky's floor report right there from PAX. I'm sure that we'll learn more as the weeks go on, and Tricky can talk about more stuff. But overall, guys, it seems like WrestleQuest for all of us was like the most anticipated game from the show.
Yeah, he did throw a few more out as we were getting set up. Alex, I don't know if you could hear, but he did mention he played, or he got to go check out, not that he played, the THQ Nordic booth. He got to see Alone in the Dark. He said it's a reimagining of the original game, which I think, as a Alone in the Dark fan, and again, a fan of horror games, that is going to be awesome. I love the Alone in the Dark franchise, and the PS3 Alone in the Dark Infernal game. Oh my gosh, that game is so cool. Freaking loved it. Have any of you guys ever played any of the Alone in the Dark games?
I have not.
I played this 360 one.
The
one where
the
like
broken
you have
one?
to, yeah, the one where you have to burn all the branches.
Yeah.
Like that was the main objective. I really liked it a lot though. Except for the car driving sequences. They suck.
I was really excited for that game, and then that game seemed to get a lot of bad press. Like, a lot of people said it was terrible, so I kind of stayed away from it.
So the 360 version was terrible because it was broken. But the PS3 version came out a year later. It was fixed, and everything was much better with it. So, excellent game. I quite enjoyed it. I actually had the platinum in that game. So it was
So that's a hard platinum to get, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a little frustrating, but that was just one of those games that I was in the mood for, and it didn't require, but I think maybe 2 playthroughs. Maybe you could do it in 1. I don't remember, but you had to beat it on hard, and it was good. It was good. Tricky mentioned a few other games that he got to check out. Tempest Rising is a sci-fi RTS. I don't know if you guys are into any of the RTS games.
I mean, of all of us, I would probably guess that Joe would be the most likely to play a real-time strategy game. I am personally not.
I'm not into this, but I do dabble in real-time strategy, but
Gotcha.
no, I wouldn't play. I'm not interested.
All right, he said Trinity Fusions is an action RPG roguelike. I'm not into roguelikes at all.
I like my roguelikes. Speaking of roguelikes, Yield, you got to play Have a Nice Death, man. That game's awesome.
Have a Nice Death?
Yep. It just came out this Friday, I believe. Yep. Yeah, I played the demo. It's amazing.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, he said also there was an unannounced train project, and he called me and told me a funny story about this one. He went to the booth, and there's this giant model train that's really pretty. And he says, what's this for? I goes, well, it's an unannounced train game. I was like, okay, cool. What? Tell me about it. He goes, well, it's unannounced. And they wouldn't tell him anything. They just had a train to look at. That was it.
That was it.
That was it.
What's the point of marketing your game at something like this if you don't?
You can't tell a little something.
Yeah.
Other than we're making it.
Yeah, we're making a train game. Here's the thing, though. As someone who comes from a background where, like, when we would do trade shows with our weightlifting equipment that we used to build, no, that I don't work there anymore, but the square footage is thousands of dollars. Like, when you rent out a showroom floor space, like, it is so much money. And so you really want to bring your A game. And there's people out there who just, say, oh, I'm just going to show my train off. I think that is a very interesting choice. So, but I guess people who buy a train, I'm assuming it's a train simulator. That would be my guess. So, but yeah, this simulator cats, they're going to play their Sims regardless. So,
hey, if Farm Simulator can be successful, then why can't Train Simulator?
That's right. Power washing simulator. Let's go. All right. He says, I think we already talked about Wreck Nation, but he said Wreck Nation is a little bit, he said it's a Little Big Planet plus Burnout. Is that the same game we were talking about earlier? I don't remember.
Yes, we were.
Okay. And then the last thing he has is Outcast 2 is the original Outcast development team are all back for Outcast 2. So if you're one of those old school Outcast fans, not the rapper, but you'll be very excited to know that the original dev team is back.
Sorry, Miss Jackson.
Oh, I am for real.
I didn't know we had such great singers in our community. All right, Darrell, was that the end of Tricky's, I guess, today's report?
That's it. Tricky on the floor.
And Tricky says he'll be talking more about THQ Nordic stuff next week. So
that's right.
Yeah, and THQ Nordic, obviously, I mean, bouncing back from the ashes of THQ, but they've put out some pretty solid stuff. So I'm excited to hear what Tricky has to say about that. But it's getting late on a Sunday, and even though we don't have to go watch The Last of Us, I think we should wrap this show up. What do you guys think?
Yeah, man, let's bounce.
Is that game only for Nintendo, Joe?
Which one?
Have a Nice Death.
Right now, yes.
Oh, damn it. That does look good.
Yeah, it's got a really cool premise and a really cool story.
Well, look, Yield needs to buy a Switch then, and Joe needs to buy Resident Evil 4 Remake.
Do it.
That's what we learned on this episode.
That's right.
I've been trying to convince the other half so that way I can play Luigi's Mansion 3.
I bought that. I really wanted to switch for that reason. I'll switch Lite so I could play it, in my room. And I bought that game, but I still haven't played it.
It's really good.
The game is spectacular.
It is really good.
And also, I wanted to really also dabble in Breath of the Wild to see if it deserves all the hate it gets.
It does.
It's booty.
I believe it does, but I still, I've played Zelda 2, so I want to find out for myself.
Yep.
It makes Zelda 2 good.
Ooh.
Wow.
Because it's a Zelda game.
Oh.
Well, Zelda 2 is a Zelda game, so.
I would give out
They're-
emails, but I think all the hate mail would overwhelm us.
Listen, I don't hate Breath of the Wild. I just think it's a lot. It's a lot. If you don't want to walk around aimlessly for hours, not knowing what to do and or where to go, it's got a great concept. It's got a great formula. I want to see how they build on it for the second game, but I'm not really liking what I see for the second game. When you're driving around on a vehicle as Link, I'm like, I don't want to drive on a vehicle. I don't want to build vehicles. I don't want anything to do with vehicles.
Is this Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts? What's going on here?
Yeah, that's what I was like. I was like, please no. And I love that game. I get so much hate for liking that game, but I loved Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. I thought it had a really cool concept. I thought people just wanted the same damn game for a third time. It's like, I don't blame you. Why fix it if it ain't broken, right? I feel like that's the modern theme in gaming.
That's what they did with Zelda. It wasn't broken, but they still decided to do something new, so...
They swung for the fences, and I would say that they achieved what they wanted to do. They made it different enough that, they got a larger audience to come into Zelda, which I think is what they were going for. But I also think it's like you might have alienated a few people, but not enough, obviously. It sold like a gajillion copies.
I own 2 copies of it, and I hate the game. I got a sealed copy of it.
Jeez. Put that in a time capsule. That'll be worth something someday.
One day.
Part of the problem.
You should flip that thing.
All right.
I might.
All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and give our shout outs. And Joe, before you and Tricky start to agree too much and the world blows up, how about
Ranger suck? No, there you go.
Well, no,
here's my shout out.
Tricky says it's not a Zelda game. Joe says it is a Zelda game. It's not a very good one.
So shout out to Tricky for not being here again while I'm here, because he's just ducking me. Shout out to his Rangers for sucking ass. Yep, you can continue to do that. Go Devils. We made the playoffs. We're in.
Human centipede of Rangers.
Jeez.
Oh, and by the way, Tricky, is that goalie's name Igor Shesterkin? Is that how you pronounce it? I believe that's how you pronounce it.
I believe that's how you pronounce it.
I thought he said Shesterkin.
Because I've heard him say it before.
Shesterkin.
Sherukin? Is their goalie's name Sherukin?
Oh, you can.
There you go.
Capcom, send us some checks.
I can't believe nobody came up to him and said the name of the goalie correctly. All you had to do was Google it. Google Rangers goalie and then hit the pronounce button. It would have told you how to say it. So that sucks. I guess nobody won that $200. Right? It was like $200. Wasn't it up to $200?
No, it's $100. But if nobody...
No, I thought he said if nobody got the 100 from the show, he upped that to 200 for the goalie thing. I don't know. But
did he? I didn't know there was a goalie thing. Okay.
Shout out to my Chicago Bulls. They're making a run for the playoffs right now. They're looking good. They just beat the returning LeBron James. Shout out to Florida Atlantic University for making the Final Four. The little engine that keeps on cooking. And they took out a lot of people. They took out Kentucky. They took out Tennessee. They took out a lot of good teams to get to where they are. So Kansas State they took out. So man, I want to see him win it all, but it's gonna be tough to beat UConn in the Final Four. So, but this is probably the best college basketball tournament I've ever watched. Alex, did you watch any of it? It was so good.
No, I pay attention to Kentucky football because Kentucky actually has a respectable football team these days. But the basketball, I've just fallen completely. I pay less attention to sports every year, and this year I just the last few years actually I just haven't paid attention to Kentucky basketball because I'm so tired of the fan base complaining about the coaching and always wanting the coaching fired because of high expectations of where we used to be, but then also seeing the team struggle. So I'm kind of I'm way off put by the Kentucky basketball program as is right now.
No, I get you. And then my final shout out to Jets fans for thinking that one player or one quarterback is going to change your miserable franchise. It's not. You're still the Jets.
Yeah, if Curtis Martin couldn't do it back in the day, no one can.
They have to get the deal done first.
They need considerations, Eel. Didn't you hear the man? He said, I will play there. They just have to work it out. Like, who says that? Like, let's be real. Do you guys want to talk about that for a second?
No,
who just says,
don't.
like,
actually, I have to pee so freaking bad right now.
I was trying to get Darrell out of here.
What to do is talk about friggin' Jets football.
Darrell, sir, your shout-outs.
Go pee. Joe and I will talk about this.
Because I think this is ridiculous.
You know what? There's not too much stuff on a podcast. I'll say, we shouldn't talk about that. But I'm gonna have to put the hard stop on that one. I gotta pee.
Darrell, sir, give us your shout-out, sir, before you have to resort to the bottle.
That's right. I've already filled 3 up. So I'm going to give a shout-out to our reporter on the floor, Tricky Mick, doing the Lord's work out there, rocking it out with the PAX flu out there, getting his hands dirty, doing the deed. Give a shout-out to you guys. Thanks for having me on. I really enjoy being here. Give a shout-out to Joe for joining us. Man, glad to have 2 of the Loot Bros represent. Definitely want to give a shout out to the Loot Bros podcast and all of our patrons, for all your support. A lot of our patrons are, kind of cross pollinate with the Trophy Horse patrons. So I want to thank you guys so much for that. And I want to give a shout out to everyone who has checked out my YouTube channel, Resident Darrell. Started this off with my kids just kind of picking up video games in the wild. Obviously, we flip them and sell them, and we collect a lot of stuff too. And we've had a lot of fun, man. We've been doing a lot of fun stuff, going to some cool places, met some really interesting folks that have kind of hooked us up with some reoccurring deals, and getting a lot of response from it. And so it's been a fun time. So Resident Darrell on YouTube if you like watching people find video games in the wild.
Yield, sir.
So shout out to Joe and Darrell for being on today. Shout out to Alex for hosting duties and recording. Shout out to Tricky for going to PAX and throwing us a few subjects to talk about. It'll be interesting to hear what he has to say over the next few weeks of what he played, and then when stuff does get announced, he can be like, I can talk about that, I played that. So it'll be interesting to hear that when that happens. Shout out to everybody out there in internet land who downloads, listens to us, hangs out. Yeah, that'll be it this week.
And cool, last wrap-up question for you guys. Do you all think Tricky, like, as a New Yorker, proper New Yorker, you think he has trouble understanding people in Boston? Are they just staring at each other like, what the fuck did you just say?
Yes, 100%.
Give a shout out to our community, the listeners, the fuel to the fire of Trophy Horrors. The only reason that we continue to do this show, I mean, look, we like talking to each other. We like yelling at each other about video games, but really you all are the ones who power us through everything. So thank you all for joining us and continuing to support us on this journey. Give a shout out to Tricky as our reporter on the floor. For once, he can actually say he reported on something, well, whenever he goes to PAX. And we certainly hope that he says he hasn't gotten sick yet, so hopefully he gets out of Boston without getting sick. A shout out to Yield, who obviously will not be here with us next week, but it's WrestleMania weekend, so we do understand. Darrell, our condolences that you have a baby shower, but at least you'll see WrestleMania proper, and, even if you have to miss NXT. But thank you for coming on, sir. Always a pleasure. And you as well, Joe. You were a nice surprise. A last-minute addition, but hey, you're always welcome, sir. So thank you all both for sharing your Sunday night with us. And last but not least, I want to give a shout out to my awesome and loving girlfriend, Ashley. I love you, hon. And if that is everything, we appreciate you all so very much. Thank you for joining us. And until next week, happy trophy hunting.
See ya.
Later, guys.
Later.
The theme song is Venus by the band Even off their album Zenith. Permission granted by the band and 12 Stone Records. You can find them on Facebook by going to www.facebook.com/evenphilippines.